Hello and welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation with me, your host Owen, guys, bringing you your team every day, the channel that brings you daily Rangers news, daily Rangers updates, transfer rumours, gossip, stories from the team, live streams, podcasts, just so much, all for nothing, free, guys. So if you want all that great information, all for free, I do the work, you get the information, you pay nothing. Just hit the sub, ring the notification, set it to all so you get all our daily videos, all our lives, all our podcasts, all our live streams, everything all for free. So let's hit that up. And if you can give the video a like, guys, as well, that would be a major, major benefit. Okay, so we've got a lot to talk about in today's news update. We've got news on a possible exit for Antonio Colak. We've got news about Haji Wright. No, not about Yanis Haji and Scott Wright, about a player called Haji Wright. Also, news about the women's game last night, the B team game, the youth game last night, about further departures from Rangers senior team. And you're telling me there's nothing going on at the club? More to come on that later. And also more news on Trusty. Do we trust in Trusty? We're going to find out later. Anyway, let's start off by talking about this man here, Antonio Colak. Well, Antonio Colak, obviously, came to the club. He has been fairly successful in terms of goals, output, etc., etc. If we look at his stats, let's share his stats first of all. This was his stats in the Scottish Cup this season: 3 appearances and a goal in the Scottish Cup. In the UEFA Champions League, he played in all 4 of Rangers qualifiers and scored 3 goals in those. A pretty decent return. Obviously, remember the goals he scored to help us get into those group stages. However, obviously not as successful in the group stages. 6 appearances and not a single goal in, well, let's face it, what was an exceptionally embarrassing group stage for Rangers this season, where we didn't even win a single game, scored 2 goals. Pretty horrific, wasn't it? Going back to the qualifiers for a minute, he played in 100% of the starting 11s. He played in 97% of the minutes and had a 50% goal contribution in the actual appearances, didn't he? So that's not bad at all for that. Now, if we look at his league contribution now, again, pretty decent. 16 goal contributions in 24 games. That's pretty decent. 13 goals, 3 assists, 55% of the starting 11s this season. Played 47% of our starting 11 minutes, 20% goal contribution for Rangers' total goal output this season. Many people feel, though, that obviously the injuries have held him back this season, but a lot of people feel that no matter what happens with Colak, that he just is not a Michael Beale type of player. That's why there is obviously rumours going around now that he will be allowed to leave this summer. Now, it's been reported in several media outlets that Colak is going to be sold this summer and will be allowed to move on if Rangers can recoup much of the transfer fee they paid for him last season. Now, like I said, I really think that it's nothing really against Colak or what Antonio Colak has done during his time at Rangers. It's more to do with the fact that I don't think he fits Michael Beale's system. I don't think Beale wants that big man up front, that fox in the box type player that Colak is. That's not the type of forward that Beale wants. And we've even seen, that times when Colak has been available to play, that Beale has gone with Alfredo Morelos, who we knew obviously has not been in the best of form this season. And Beale's gone as far as to call him out and criticise him this year. So, it really does seem that Colak is coming to the end of his time at Rangers. Now, if Colak leaves the club in the summer without any further signings, that would leave us pretty much with this man as our only centre forward still under contract, who has 1 year remaining on his deal. Now, we've got to admit that Kemar Roof is probably the best finisher at the club, but he just cannot ever stay fit. And that is a major concern. If Colak does move on this summer, it leaves Rangers in a position where we really do need to go and buy 2 to 3 strikers this summer to really bolster the numbers, especially if, the likes of obviously Robbie Ure, who is out of contract, Zach Lovelace, Weston are not to get opportunities to play in the first team. People have obviously cast doubt on whether Lovelace, Weston, Ure are ready for the first team, but with this growing likelihood that Colak is going to leave. Now, the rumor is that he is after a move to the Bundesliga. Now, obviously, his change of agents recently has sort of increased the likelihood of this. Players only tend to change agents when they want a move, or B, they're coming up to the end of their contract and they want a new contract and increase money. And it seems highly likely that obviously, Colak has a contract, so it's not that. Therefore, is it more likely that he is actually looking for a move? And that certainly seems to be the news that is coming out of the club today, that Colak will be on the move this summer. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are Rangers right to sell Antonio Colak? Personal opinion, I think he's decent against those lower division teams that put on that low block. I think he is quite good for that. Do I trust him in Europe? Do I trust him against Celtic? Probably not. And I think that's where we do need that top-class striker to come in, and a striker who can grab us 25, 30 goals a season. And do I think Colak can do that on a consistent basis? No, I don't. Like I said, I think if Colak was prepared to stay and be a bit part player from the bench, that would be fine. But I don't think Colak's looking for that. I think he is looking for a starting place, and I don't think that's what Michael Beale has envisaged for him. So that's a little bit on Antonio Colak. Now, Rangers have been linked, according to a source in Turkey. Yes, I know, whatever Turkish media say, we do have to take with a slight pinch of salt, given the fact that they are exceptionally talented in Turkey at making up these rumours, linking numerous Rangers players with moves away from the club and to Turkey. Yanis Haji, for example, to Galatasaray, Alfredo Morelos to Galatasaray, Ridvan Yilmaz back to Besiktas. We've heard it all, haven't we? Well, who is this Haji Wright? Well, no, he is no relation to Scott Wright, and he is no relation to Yanis Haji, before anyone gets that. Haji Amir Wright is his full name. He's 25 years old. He is from Los Angeles, California, USA. He is 6'3", so a pretty big unit, but quick with it. He's not a slow 6'3" guy. He is a centre forward stroke winger. Obviously, mainly plays through the middle. Haji, though, does seem to have had more clubs than Tiger Woods. His youth career was at LA Galaxy and Schalke 04 before he went to New York Cosmos. From New York Cosmos, he moved back to Schalke, where he spent his youth time. Played for Schalke's second team, making 22 appearances and scoring 14 goals. Played for Schalke's first team, scoring having 7 appearances and 1 goal, before going on loan during that time at Schalke to SV Sandhausen, where he scored 1 goal in 15 appearances. He then went to play in the Dutch league for VV Venlo, where he failed to register in 22 games. Then he went in 2020 to 2022 to Sanjirski, where he scored 11 goals in 29 games. He then went on loan to Antalyaspor in Turkey, 21-22, and then made that move permanent. He's got 14 goals during his loan spells in 32 games, and this season has netted 15 times in 25 games. He's also made 7 appearances for the US men's national team, full national team, after representing them at youth level, scoring 2 goals in those 7 appearances. Now, Haji Wright, apparently, Rangers put a £7 million bid down for him with a 15% sell-on clause. Now, this bid was allegedly, now this is what we've got to take it all with a pinch of salt now, allegedly turned down by Antalyaspor, who were looking for somewhere in the region of £10 million for Haji Wright. Now, you've got to kind of, I don't know, take all this with a little bit of a pinch of salt. This is Turkish media. We know how Turkish media like to sort of hype things up and to so in a way, kind of, I don't know, really make it over dramatic, really make it a situation where, at the end of the day, it's a little bit dubious at times what they do report. Now, however, this link has come from a reasonably decent source. That source is Salim Manev, who is a journalist, a well-respected journalist in Turkey. He works for Radio Sport in Istanbul. Now, he is someone he's also a YouTuber. He is quite well respected, and on the whole is reasonably accurate in what he says. Now, I've got to admit that after having done some digging around Haji Wright, looking at his stats, looking at statistics, he kind of concerns me a little bit. He kind of worries me a little bit. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Josie Altidore Former American striker who had spells in England at Hull and Sunderland and was pretty much a disaster there. You've got to look at back a little bit back in his career, him not having the success with the goals. Yes, he has at Sandierski and Antalyaspor, but the Turkish league is outside of Galatasaray, Fenerbahce, and Besiktas. You've got to question the strength now. And I know that's rich coming from Scotland, but I don't know. There's just something about him, and the fact that they're asking for £7 to £10 million for him is an awful lot of money. People balked at the fact that we were going to pay £5 million for Malik Tillman. Then paying £7 to £10 million for a 25-year-old who has only ever done it in Turkey. Didn't do it in Germany, didn't do it in Holland, in other major European leagues. So for me, there is a slight concern there around Haji Wright. I think there are better strikers that Rangers could be targeting. I think, obviously the Josh Maja thing is something that we need to continue to pursue, even if that is, reasonably unlikely at this stage. Also, the Joel Perreault thing with the Swansea. I'd much rather, if we're going to spend £7 million on a striker, spend that money on Perreault. He does look a better bet than Haji Wright. He does really worry me in terms of his output. Yes, like I said, he's done it in Turkey. Yes, he has scored 29 goals in 57 appearances in Turkey, but that is Turkey. I do have my doubts. I do have my concerns. Look, I'm no expert. I'm not a scout. I've only coached at a low level. I'm no genius on this, but I don't watch football. So I think it's up to you guys. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. What is your view on Haji Wright? Do you think this person is a serious signing prospect for Rangers, or is it yet again another kind of, I don't know, Turkish media frenzy created to sell papers and to get radio clicks? I don't know. It does seem slightly dubious to me. Also in the news today that Yanis Hadji has been talking, saying that obviously he does not want to leave Rangers. He does intend to stay with the club. That is his hope, that he will be able to stay at Rangers for next season. Hadji, obviously, who has been out, was out for 12 months this season after that knee injury, has only just come back, did play 65 minutes against Aberdeen on Sunday. It is to be hoped, obviously, that Yanis Hadji continues to get minutes in the remaining SPL games, and we continue to build Hadji back up to really sort of see the best of him. There was no doubt that during that 55 title-winning season, he was a high-quality player and someone who did make a difference to the team. And if we can recapture that Yanis Hadji, I think that would be fantastic for the club. And I think the other thing you've got to consider is this, we can't afford to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Yes, there is this need to rebuild. I get that 100%, but you cannot change over the entire squad in one summer. It just is not economically viable. It is just not viable from a player personnel point of view. It is just not viable in getting a team to gel. And given the fact we've obviously got these Champions League qualifiers coming up, before the season, we need to have a team that is capable of gelling and going out there and playing in those qualifiers. Getting into the Champions League, I think, is absolutely vital. At least getting into the group stages and competing to some degree, and getting that Champions League money is vital, given the fact that obviously Celtic will obviously be getting that money, and they're already financially ahead of us anyway. So, like I said, yes, you may be able to get some money for Hadji, say £3 million, but is that a fair price for someone who could maybe, and again, I know it's could maybe in a year's time be worth £5 to £7 million if he has another decent season for Rangers? And that is something we've got to weigh up. And like I said, we cannot afford to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Yes, I think there are obviously going to be up to 6 players from those list of 8 out of contracts leaving this summer. And obviously, I think people like Borna Barisic, Kamar Roof might well leave as well. But obviously, Malik Tillman is very unlikely to return. So, there will be a changeover in players there. But at the same time, you cannot just throw the entire squad out and keep, say, Nicholas Raskin, Todd Cantwell, James Tavernier, Connor Goldson, and that be it. And Robbie McCrory, say 5 players, and then try and rebuild from there. It is just not viable. So Yanis Hadji, I think, is someone we do need to keep hold of. Little update on Austin Trusty, the defender that I introduced you to yesterday. Arsenal defender who has been on loan at Birmingham City all season and was one of Birmingham's best players this season. He's a left-sided centre-back who can also play left-back. Trusty announced today that he is returning to Arsenal after a successful loan spell at Birmingham, 44 appearances for the Second City team. But he obviously wants to play first team football. He wants to get first team minutes. He is unlikely to get that at Arsenal. Obviously, given the fact that Arsenal have a number of very, very talented defenders and obviously are competing at the highest end of the English Premier League. Arsenal paid only £2.5 million for Austin Trusty. Now, it's kind of dubious about how that money was paid. He was owned by the Colorado Rapids, who are owned by Stan Kroenke. Arsenal paid the Colorado Rapids £2.5 million. Arsenal are owned by Stan Kroenke. So Kroenke kind of paid himself in a way for the player. So did they really spend any money on him? I don't know. It's debatable. But he's certainly someone that does appear to be interesting Glasgow Rangers. And I think, could be that left-sided centre-back that comes in. He is certainly someone who is a no-nonsense defender, someone who enjoys defending, someone who enjoys getting stuck in. Perhaps someone that, we could bring in and be that replacement for Ben Davies. Okay, now, have a look at this list for me. Here's a list. I want you to take a look at this list. Have a look. Take a look at that list. Have a look at that list for me. Now, that's all the senior members of staff who have left Rangers over the last few weeks. Obviously, Douglas Park stood down as chairman. Ross Wilson left his sporting director role to go to Nottingham Forest. Obviously, Douglas Park was replaced by John Bennett. Ross Wilson is still to be replaced, despite the fact there is people like obviously Craig Moore who have seemingly thrown their hat in the ring. Stuart Robertson, managing director, has stepped down and been replaced by a chief executive officer in James Bisgrove. Craig Mulholland has announced that he is leaving at the end of the season. He is yet to be replaced. Andrew Dixon, who is director of finance and football, he left. Was sacked actually in the end. But he did actually leave. Quite the circumstances yet have not yet been revealed. Also, his wife, Pippa Dixon, who is head of corporate hospitality at Rangers, she left as well. Now it's been announced today that director of finance, a finance director, Kenny Barkley, is also leaving the club as well. So that takes to 7 now, the numbers of departures from the senior staff. 7 departures. Now, you can't tell me that something is not going on at the club. Now, look, I don't know. I'm not an insider. I don't have press access to Rangers. I would love to have press access to Rangers, and that is something that in time the Victorian I hope to have and to develop a relationship with the club. So Glasgow Rangers, if you're watching, we'd love to develop a relationship with you. But at the end of the day, a relationship obviously beyond the fact that we love the club and we're fans of the club, obviously that goes without saying. But the fact that all these senior members of staff have either stepped down, moved on, or in a couple of cases been replaced, it seems that John Bennett and James Bisgrove really are taking a clean sweeping broom to the senior members of staff. Now, is this just replacing incompetence, as was asked by one follower on Twitter, or is this a clearing of the decks because something is about to happen, because something is in the offing? Is it that Bennett's just going to bring in his own guys? That could be one possibility, and maybe the most likely possibility. But by the same token, it could be that there may be an investor on the horizon, or a takeover. Now, there is obviously rumours that continue to swirl around that. And as David Edgar of Heart and Hand said, taking over the club would be an exceptionally hard thing to do, given the fact that the shares are so disparately shared out. There is not one massive majority shareholder. You would have to buy out 3 to 4 shareholders to take a majority stake in Rangers. But it does seem, though, that by clearing the decks, by having vacancies at the sporting director position, the academy director position, the finance and football director, the head of corporate hospitality, the finance director, and obviously James Bisgrove's role hasn't, I don't think, been replaced either, given the fact that obviously he is stepping up. That would certainly give an investor an opportunity to bring in and appoint their own people. Now, obviously, like I said, John Bennett would continue probably as the chairman, and that Michael Beale is the manager, and he's unlikely to be changed at this stage. But you still are giving the investor, if there is one, if there is a takeover, and the opportunities to put their own people into place. Does Bennett know something we don't? This will continue to be a rumour ongoing whilst all these changes are taking place, until perhaps replacements are announced for the sporting director role, the academy role, the finance director role, etc., etc. But with all these departures, it does seem that something is going on at this club. Yes, I welcome the fact that we seem to be, I'm not criticizing criticizing anybody from the previous board here, but what I'm saying is I welcome the fact that John Bennett seems to be taking a fresh approach to this, that James Bisgrove seems to be taking a fresh new approach to this, because I think what has gone on for the last couple of years clearly hasn't worked on the field, because of what they've tried to do hasn't worked. The players that are brought in haven't been good enough. The strategy used hasn't worked. The fact that we've obviously fallen behind Celtic shows that. And I think that this movement by Bisgrove, by Bennett, shows that there is clearly a direction within the club that they want to do something new. They want to try something new, that they want to push this club in a new direction. And all these senior members of staff departing clearly gives an impression that something is happening and something is going on at this club. Like I said, I don't know what it is. I'm just surmising here. I'm just guessing, using what's happened to other clubs when this has happened as a kind of guide. But, I'm sure hopefully something soon will be revealed as to why all these departures have suddenly come all at once. But certainly very interesting times for Glasgow Rangers, as obviously we come towards the end of this season and hopefully rebuild towards a more successful season next season. Okay, let's just finish off by talking a little bit about Rangers youth team, who unfortunately lost the Glasgow Cup final last night, going down on penalties to Celtic again. Yet another cup final defeat to Celtic. One thing to say is that well done for the boys for battling back. They battled back to take the tie. 2 penalties. Unfortunately, there were some pretty shocking penalties in the penalty shootout, and Rangers lost the shootout to Celtic, handing the Glasgow Youth Cup final to that lot from across the city. Yet another trophy makes its way across the city. Not good at all. Let's just call the season now. On another note, congratulations to Rangers women, who won tonight. Another 3 points in the bag with a 3-0 victory over Partick Thistle, which keeps them hot on the tails of Glasgow City in the competition to win the Women's Scottish League. Well, that's it, guys, from Glasgow Rangers Nation. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for picking up your daily news update from the channel. Keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, ready for more news as it breaks. Anything else, we will bring it to you whenever we are, wherever we are. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to give us a sub, hit that notification bell, and if you can give the video a like, guys, I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back to speak to you again soon here on Glasgow Rangers Nation.